One sec. Stand by.
You're surrounded.
Okay.
Fire away.
Okay, so I don't have any prepared comments. We gave a briefing to the ownership a short while ago, and I'm happy to take questions. I'll try to give you answers if I can.
Did you guys indeed decide to condense the timeline for filing for relocation today?
We haven't made a specific decision about condensing it or moving it up, but we have told the membership that we are allowing for that, and that we've told the clubs, we've told the home markets that we're working in a way to be able to make the decision earlier than the March meeting, so everything would move up. We also told them that we didn't see any need to have a filing window that was open for 6 weeks, because the clubs that are interested have made themselves known, and a lot of work has gotten done, so we'll probably have an open window which is much shorter than 6 weeks.
Did you hear any new updates, however small or large, with regards to the Inglewood or Carson project, just with what the clubs were discussing today in your update meeting today at all?
No, each of the 3 clubs gave updates and comments on their home markets. They said nothing about their interest in the projects that they're working on in Los Angeles.
Eric, how does the potential LA 2020 Super Bowl factor into this? What is that? Yeah, that LA could be a candidate for that game?
Well, that says more about the attractiveness and the potential of the LA market than it does about any particular aspect of the progress. It just so happens that the Super Bowl Advisory Committee and the membership are likely to award 2 Super Bowls next year. And the second of those two Super Bowls lines up with that time when a stadium could have been in operation in Los Angeles for a full year. And so anticipating that that might happen, it was necessary to tell the competing clubs, the 4 clubs that were selected to compete for Super Bowl 53 and 54, that there's a possibility that another club could be added to the mix, and that a club would be considered added to the mix if there's a relocation proposal that is voted, and if that relocation proposal provides for a stadium to be done in time.
Mr. Grubman, perfect to play in 2000, to have a team in the stadium by 2018?
Ask again, please.
Would it have to be perfect? Would you have to hit it perfect to have a team, playing by 2018?
Yeah, I think what you're asking is, does it meet our rules? So our rules say that a stadium must be open and operating for a full year of games prior to being able to host the Super Bowl. So it would have to be open for at least 1 year, and it is possible for that to happen. Does it have to be perfect? It has to be open, and we have to have played a full season in order to do that.
On the matter of home markets, what was said about Oakland?
Sorry?
On the matter of home markets, what was said about Oakland?
I'll leave that to the clubs to talk about their comments about the markets.
Do you have any more of a sense of the offer that San Diego presented on Monday? Any more of a reaction to it?
I don't. As you can appreciate, we're pretty booked back to back at these meetings, and that report actually came out when I was on the plane flying out here, so I really haven't had a time to do anything other than read it a couple of times and ask a few questions internally, but beyond that, I haven't gotten deep in it.
Eric, do you view Kroenke's plan in competition with the Carson plan? How do you view the 2 dueling projects?
I think it's obvious. I think everybody views it pretty much how I do, which is you have 2 entitled sites sponsored by clubs. There's more than 2 entitled sites, but 2 of them are sponsored by clubs. One has a single club, which is Kroenke's sponsorship, and the other has 2 clubs, which is the sponsorship of the Raiders and the Chargers. So I view them as entitled sites where the stadiums are being designed, but we are not yet at that point where anyone has made a specific proposal with a specific stadium design.
What's your impressions of the last 6 months of what's going on in St. Louis?
I would categorize St. Louis as having very capable people working on the project, and I would categorize them as having put some of the pieces in place. And we've been working with them. We've been spending time, and we'll spend more time as necessary. Getting stadiums done, though, is something that is very, very hard. It's very complicated, and you really don't count something. You don't count anything unless it's fully done and occupied. And so good effort isn't enough. We really have to get a project which is viable and gets the support of membership.
Eric, how early could that window be moved out to,
The filing window or the voting window?
the filing window? Or both, actually.
Well, I think the filing window could be moved up till very late in the season and the regular season, and I think the voting would happen some weeks after that. But to pick a specific time right now would be speculative.
How patient can the league be with Oakland?
I wouldn't use the word patience. I think that when clubs have spent years trying to get something done and have reached that point in time where they go explore their alternatives, whether it's in Los Angeles or any other market, and that exploration provides something that they can actually go do, then what happens is the time frame gets defined. And for better or worse, the time frame is not perfectly defined, but it's pretty much defined by the amount of work and the entitlement that's been done on these two sites by multiple clubs has brought it to the point where we think that there could be at least one and maybe two relocation proposals available to act on in time for the 2016 season. It's not done, and so I don't label it as certain, but there's a good opportunity. And that means that any of the markets, I wouldn't single out Oakland, any of the markets really have to be prepared to have a proposal that meets that time frame. If it doesn't meet that time frame, then they're depending on a variable which feels like the club giving up the opportunity that it's created somewhere else.
Will you comment on your experience working with Oakland?
Is there a discussion at all having a second team in Inglewood? Is that possibility?
The discussion of a second team in Inglewood has been consistent for many, many months. So I'll go back to the decision that was made by membership a number of years ago. Any stadium which is going to be eligible for NFL financing, league financing, has to be two-team capable. That does not mean in order to get financing, it has to house two teams. It has to be two-team capable. So the Inglewood project is being designed to be two-team capable. Whether or not it has two teams depends on variables that really haven't been defined. But it will be two-team capable.
There are a lot of moving parts, a lot of possibilities. Is it closer to a reality that one or two teams are going to be moving?
I think it's impossible to tell that because the variables include the club desires, the ability to get a project designed and financed, and the response of the home markets. And we don't control what the home markets will do. We don't dictate what they will do or how they will do it. We tell them what our anticipated time frame is, and we give them our time and attention and resources, as we've done in all of the three markets. And then whether or not they can turn that into a proposal, and whether or not that proposal, if they do turn it into one, is attractive, really will determine how many teams are still interested in moving when you get to that
Eric,
date.
has there been anything in terms of if there is something that happens in 2016, if a temporary venue, let's say the Rose Bowl or something like that, or the Coliseum downtown, could be used to house a team until the stadium is completed?
Yes, we've done a lot of work looking at temporary facilities at the league office and with the clubs, various clubs. We've looked at all of the likely ones that would immediately jump to the top of your head, and we've looked at some others. There are a lot of possibilities because it's not only the proximity to the market, but how playing in a temporary facility can be connected to a sales plan, a brand marketing plan, and when you start to think about that and the power of these brands, that really opens up multiple opportunities.
Eric, the commissioner.
How many others are there other than the Rose Bowl and the LA Coliseum?
I could probably start to count them and easily get to most of the fingers on my two hands.
Eric, will San Diego get a chance to present at the next subcommittee meeting for LA, and will you be going back to San Diego to meet with them further on their project?
No, I don't anticipate any of the markets presenting to the LA committee meeting that we have in a couple of weeks. What we like to see before they present to that committee is a plan which is fully defined and has had the opportunity for the club to comment on it and for us to dig in. And we haven't had that, and we won't have enough time between now and early June.
So the St. Louis plan, having, because they've met, is fully defined?
It was defined to the point where we had had the opportunity to dig in and participate, and so had the Rams. So it was far enough along to get that first exposure to owners. That was not a decision-making meeting, and nor would it be for any other market. To go in front of the LA committee is an opportunity to get feedback from owners. When you get feedback from league staff, it's not the same as feedback from owners. And so you have 6 highly interested but independent owners. They're not trying to get their own projects done. They've gotten their own projects done. They represent the major committees. And so it's a very good sounding board. And so it's appropriate to give a market that opportunity before you're getting down to that point where you're making an actual proposal.
Were there questions asked today, and if so, what? In other words, after the
I'm
presentation?
going to leave the specific questions in that room. The owners were interested. I think they very much appreciated a clearer definition of the timeline and the variables that are in play. And I think they very much appreciated hearing the club speak for themselves on at least one of the topics, because up until now, league staff has reported on all these topics.
But there were questions you just don't want to tell us what they were.
Well, that's my standard operating procedure when it's a question and answer between 2 owners. I'll leave that to the owners.
What's next in the process? What do you hope to get done over the next couple months?
Well, there are different things happening in each of the markets, but in each of those markets, we're likely to need to get back into them to talk to them. And so what's happening in Oakland, and when that happens, is different than what's happening in San Diego and what's happening in St. Louis. But each of them will have the opportunity for us, will provide the opportunity for us to get back in and have some discussion sometime in the next couple of weeks or month or 2, certainly.
Eric, there's currently in St. Louis a lawsuit regarding the city piece of the funding. How does the league view that? Is that a problem, or do you have an understanding of what's going on there?
I'm not an attorney, and therefore I'm not qualified to comment on the probabilities of lawsuits. And so I'll just confine my comments to the description of my conversations with Dave Peacock. Dave is confident, and he can speak for himself, but he's expressed to me confidence that they will be able to pursue the litigation in a way that provides clarity and still provides for a project that they think is going to be attractive for the NFL to consider. So I would refer you back to Dave on exactly how they're going to handle it and the timing and the probabilities, but he does not see that as something that's going to stop them.
What can you say about the market assessment, and how is the league using that to help make these decisions?
We've used a third-party firm of CSL Legends to do market assessments and site assessments of multiple sites in the Los Angeles market and also in each of the home markets, Oakland, San Diego, and St. Louis. The information that will come out of that is PSL potential, ticket potential, geographical preference for stadiums, how fans feel about certain elements of the brand resonance, and so forth and so on. These are professionally done. They're done without bias. The information is available to us and our committee. It's available to each of the 3 clubs, and on a summary basis, it's available to each of the task forces, or whatever their names are, their titles are, the officials that are working on these things in the home markets, and we'll be providing that information to them shortly.
Eric, if you were to bet on whether there would be 0, 1, or 2 teams playing in Los Angeles in 2012, what would you bet?
Well, Jason, you know that
2016, I'm sorry.
Jason, you know my background is both military and NFL, and so first of all, I don't bet on sports, and second of all, I don't think it's appropriate for me to speculate on that because, as I said in the report just a short while ago, there are really important variables that are outside our control, and the most important of which I'd identify is what the home markets do and whether there's an attractive proposal or proposals that comes out of those markets. That will define, to a great extent, what each of the clubs wants to do and what the membership thinks should be done. And it's too early to tell what those proposals will be or won't be.
If a development has something other than a stadium involved, like retail shops, restaurants, that sort of thing, is that problematic?
There's no problem with having additional development. In